Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have Helen R. Blazis. I got that right. And she is an author and also an interpreter. She's going to show you in a few minutes her beautiful outfit, her Polish outfit, and her story, this book that she has written, Zosia. I got that right too. Mm-hmm. This is about her grandmother being an immigrant into our country, and immigration and industry. This is fascinating. Welcome, Helen. How long first of all, when did you get the idea to do this?
Actually, the idea began with my mother, who herself is a writer, and she's been published and has done poetry, short stories, that sort of thing. And she's also a researcher. She won the first ever Grafton History Award.
Your mom?
Mm-hmm. For the research that she did. Being conversant in both Polish and English, she was able to go into some of the historical records of the Polish community, translate them all into English, and present them to the Historical Society. So it was very beneficial for our community. So after she had done all this writing, she had it in her mind to begin this book on her mother, Zosia.
Yeah.
Because the oral tradition was alive and well in my grandmother's household. When I would vacation there, as a little 6-year-old girl, she would talk to me about the old country, meaning Poland.
Yeah.
And of course it's all in Polish.
Sure.
And I'd be listening to her stories and getting most of what she was saying.
Yeah.
Well, my mother had the wisdom to take these stories of my grandmother's childhood and actually write them down, which she did. So she had a manuscript somewhat put together. But then, as she was approaching year 88, she wasn't able to finish it because of her death. And so I asked prior to that, I said, Mom, would you mind if I finished writing your book? And I would ask her questions about what she had written to verify this and that, or the Polish translation of this and that. And so after she died, I started this about 5 years back, really working at it.
In the late 80s or beginning 90s that you started it? Because she died at 88?
At age 88.
She died at 88.
Right, so 5 years ago would have been about 2017. 17. And it wasn't until 2020 when we had the great COVID lockdown, where we're at home, that I decided, okay, I'm going to finish the book.
Yeah.
And my husband, who was a writer, he was fine because he'd be at his computer writing, I'd be at my laptop writing, and the book was finished.
There is another young lady you mentioned, Stasia Rowinski?
That's my mother, Stasia Rowinski.
Okay, so that's how you tied it in. This was dedicated to your grandmother, the book, right?
No, the book was dedicated to my husband.
Your husband,
who is recently deceased, and to my sister.
How many were in your family?
We are 7 children, so 3 girls, 3 boys, and then a little girl.
Were you the youngest?
No, second oldest.
Second oldest. That is a huge, but I don't think that the Polish families had small families. They had more larger than where I grew up.
No one had small families because there was no birth control.
Okay. Well, didn't the word no mean anything back then? No?
Not if you were in love.
Oh, okay.
And my parents were in love.
So, God, did you grow up with that too? Oh, they were lovebirds.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really? They would hug right in front of me and they'd joke around. And one time I found them just horse. They were in their 70s. They were kidding, roughhousing on the couch. I'm like, oh my God. But you know what? It was really cool.
Of course it was.
To see that you grew up with that too.
Yes.
So now you should see, she's going to give us a presentation pretty soon. She can describe the outfit. Did you make that vest?
Oh gosh, no. No, this vest was my grandmother's. And when she had been in the United States for some time, probably about the time when my mother was born, so that would be about 1924, she commissioned people in Krakow, back in Poland, and all they do is make these exquisite vests.
Still?
Yeah, because I bought mine there a few years back when I was in Poland.
Yeah.
So, although I don't think the quality is quite as good as this. This was incredible. And so she had one made for herself, which is this one, and you can see I'm about the size she was.
Yeah.
And then she had a series of them made for my mother. So I have vests that are, for a 2-year-old, little, and then a little bit larger, maybe for an 8-year-old, and then a little bit larger for a 12-year-old. And these were the vests that my sisters and I would wear when we had special holidays.
Right.
And to this day, I still, when we celebrate Christmas Eve as a family together, well, I'll still wear this vest or another vest, or, I have many
I love the
outfits.
bling on it. And then she has a beautiful white blouse.
Mm-hmm.
Did you happen to buy some, or did you make that, the blouse or the skirt?
No. My grandmother made this.
Is that an apron?
Yes, it's an apron.
Okay.
Which they always wore. And so my grandmother made this.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the blouse and I bought the skirt many years ago.
Oh, that's perfect. Looks like it goes right with it.
It does. Yeah.
And did they wear long black stockings, the black shoes?
Oh, yeah.
Everything was black on the shoes?
Yeah, oftentimes they would wear boots, like a short boot.
Yeah.
Sometimes the boots were red if they were rich enough, I suppose. But generally, they had black boots.
Did you, when you went to college, or before that in high school, did you know you were going to get into art? Because you have a talent of putting things together.
Yeah. No. My strong point was mathematics.
Oh,
chemistry.
I bow to you.
Yeah, that's what I love. My older sister, Mary Ann, was a math major, and she taught at Dean. And I kind of wanted to follow in her footsteps and be a math major. But then I fell in love with the French language, with the culture, with the philosophy, the writers like Camus and others. So I became a major in French. But that also enabled me to bring French art into the classroom where I taught.
Yeah.
So I can't draw, but I know a lot of art history. Yeah. And so I bring that.
Reminds me when I went to college. Well, I've said many times, the girls, at least where I grew up, we're going into elementary ed, okay, you get to college. Then within days, I saw my roommate was doing art. I went, that looks like fun. Switcheroony, pull a switcheroony. But you stayed with it, the art history part, right? Kind of that type of thing.
Right.
You say you worked at Dean, or your mom did?
No, my older sister did.
Your oldest, my father went to Dean in Franklin when it was Dean Academy, the private school.
Yes.
Now it's Dean College, right?
Exactly.
But he went to, actually, it's the first time he ever saw my mother, who was just visiting his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And he saw her walking along. He says, oh, darn it, he didn't want her there, he wanted to be. Little did he know, years later they'd meet at Emerson and they were going to get married. Yes. So, now, you are going to give us a presentation, right?
Yes.
So we're going to clip this for a second and we'll be right back. Hang on.
It was rather warm this morning as I begin the greatest adventure of my life. You see, I'm Zosia Linek, I'm 19 years old, and today I am going to America, to a place called Grafton, Massachusetts. Now, you may wonder, why am I going to Grafton? Well, I'll tell you about that later. But right now is the most difficult part of my adventure, because I have to say goodbye to my family. Oh, Mama's in the kitchen making breakfast. Dzień dobry, Mama. Jak tam? How are you, dear mother? Ah, I see. Tell me, Tata and Brother Jan, have they returned from their morning chores? Oh, there they are right now. Dzień dobry, Tata. Or should I say, goodbye, Father? Oh, Jan, I know you want to come with me to America, but Tata needs you here to work the farm. After all, you're his only son, and you'll inherit the farm someday. But maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to send some money back to Tata for your voyage to America. And there's my sister Anielka. Anielka, you're sitting at the table while Mama is preparing breakfast? Zosia, I suppose you'll go to America and marry some very rich, handsome man. Oh, Aniela, who knows? I don't even know what America is like. Oh, my 7-year-old little sister, Marisha. What are you doing sitting and crying in the corner? Chodź tutaj, moje kochana. Oh, ja cię kocham. You are squeezing me so tight as if you'll never let me go. Marisha, I promise you that when I make enough money in America, I will buy you the prettiest dress, and I'll send it here in Grodziska Dolne. Oh, and who is that running into the kitchen? It's 3-year-old Polka. Polka, chodź tutaj, moje kochane. Oh, ja cię kocham. Oh, I love you so much. Zosia, what is it you want to tell me, Polka? Zosia, don't leave me. Zosia, don't forget me. Oh, Polka, Polka, of course I won't forget you. Polka, you are in my heart, and we shall never be totally apart. Ja cię kocham, Polka. Well, it's time to go. I reached down, picked up my suitcase. Do widzenia. Said goodbye to my family. Do widzenia. And I went outside. Just across the cart path from our house is the house of the Matuszek family. Dzień dobry. Mrs. Matuszek is hanging out laundry. After all, she has such a big family. Dzień dobry. Dzień dobry, Zosia. I'm so happy you are going back to America with my own Anielka. You know, she's married to Albert Kuras. And 2 years ago, when they returned to Grodziska Dolna, Poland, they brought their 2-year-old son, little John. Oh, he's so precious. And after their visit, they decided to return to America to work in the mills, but they would leave John here with me, his babcha. I would raise him. I would love him. I would take good care of him. And what's most important, in America, they have diseases. They have pollution. You can't even eat the fish that you catch in the river. And that's certainly no place for my grandson. So I've been taking care of him these years. And this summer, as you know, Anielka returned with her second child, baby Mary. So sickly, so frail. It wasn't a surprise to any of us when she died. So now, Anielka is returning to America with you, Zosia. But she's inside. She's trying to say goodbye to John. She's covering him with hugs and kisses. Oh, it's been so tragic for her. Mrs. Matuszek, what can I do to help Anielka? Zosia, be her friend. She needs you. She needs your strength. I must go in now. God be with you. Do widzenia. Well, I must tell you, 14 years later, little John did go to America to unite with his father Albert and his mother Anielka. And surprise, he had 4 little siblings to meet too. There was Eva and Steffi and Frank and Joseph. I must tell you too, I kept my promise to Mrs. Matushek. When it came time for me to buy a house, I bought one that abutted the property of Albert and Anielka Koris. So Anielka and I remained best friends. And best of all, as our children grew, they became best friends too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen, for putting that on. But that was fantastic. The work that goes into that. She wrote the whole thing, and it was based on her grandmother's being in Poland and then coming to the United States. Helen, we were just talking about, you do this at, where do you appear with your presentation?
Okay, well, first of all, I appeared in front of all the 3rd graders of the Grafton school system when they were having their Grafton History Day.
Yeah.
Then the library in Grafton asked me to do a presentation, which I did. And the reenactment itself is about an hour long, and I put together a PowerPoint. So as I'm in the foreground giving the reenactment, in the background you see pictures of the people I talk about. You see pictures of the homes. You see the factories, the whole story in pictures.
Like in your book,
Yes.
dedicated Zosia to her grandmother.
No, to my mother.
Your mother, yeah, your mother.
In any case, I did it at the library next in September on the 15th at the Asa Waters Mansion in Millbury.
That's pretty expressive. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'll be doing the reenactment and the PowerPoint there.
Right.
And then after that, Grafton Historical Society, and then there are other historical societies who have been talking to me.
This is awesome.
So-
Helen, tell them how they can get a copy of your book, Zosia, or have you come and do a presentation.
Okay, I suppose the best way is to send me an email, and that would be at markblazessafaris@gmail.com. Now, Mark Blazis Safaris is the business my husband and I started, and we travel to the 7 continents of the world. So, but that's the address I use. So Mark, MARK, BLAZIS SAFARIS, Mark Blazis Safaris @gmail.com.
How, if people want to have you come and give a presentation, how far are you willing to travel?
Well, I would say the Blackstone Valley,
Yeah.
because this is about the Industrial Revolution, which started with, of course, Slater down in Pawtucket, and so I would say, I mean, from Worcester, obviously.
Yep.
I think the actual Blackstone River begins in Paxton. That's as far north, through Worcester and through Millbury. But one thing we should all be aware of is even if the Blackstone River itself doesn't go through your backyard, such as here in Upton, Upton is still part of the watershed,
Oh, yeah.
which will flow eventually into the Blackstone. So it's a story specific to the Industrial Revolution and to the Blackstone River watershed.
It's beautiful. All these pictures, did you take yourself, or were handed down to you? You couldn't possibly have taken all these.
I didn't take any of them.
Not any, okay.
Okay. Now, the pictures that are in the book actually is an idea. Once I had written the book, I had a collection of pictures that came from my grandmother. For example, if she were a bridesmaid, you always got a complimentary formal picture from the wedding party. And so, and because my grandmother was a bridesmaid many, many times, we had lots of wedding pictures. So that was the basis of the collection. Plus, anytime there was a first communion or a baptism, you oftentimes would have a professional photographer come in to take the pictures. So my thought was, I would like to make a collection of the immigrants of this Grafton area, 3 mills, Fisherville, Farnhamsville, and Saundersville areas, But I requested that they be professional photographs for two reasons. Number one, they hold up really well over time. And second of all, people generally write down the names of who's in the picture.
Yeah.
And that is also helpful to me. So now this is, remember, during the year 2020, COVID is going on. So I called up my friends throughout the Grafton area, and I said, any pictures of your grandmother getting married? Or
Yeah. Oh,
And
beautiful wedding gowns in here.
So my friends would come. I would meet them in my driveway. I'd be masked, they'd be masked, because we hadn't received any inoculation yet.
Yeah.
I would take the pictures, bring them into my house, make photocopies of them, and then return the pictures to them.
Yeah.
And in doing so, as I talked to my colleagues, friends, I learned the stories of their parents. And so I include in the book and in my reenactment the stories of the other immigrants who came to work the mills of the Industrial Revolution.
Well, I lived in South Grafton for a while. And remember that big old mill building there off 122A?
Mm-hmm.
I think they tore that down. Yeah.
No, that is the Fisher Mill, or the Fisher Manufacturing Plant, and that was burned. Kids went in there one afternoon, and they just started a little fire for fun, but the floors of that building, wood, were so seeped in oils that the fire quickly spread to the floors. The kids escaped. The police know who they were, but they were never charged with anything. And the fire burned everything to the ground. And it
When was that? What year was that?
1990s.
Oh, 1990. Okay, I thought it was years later. Oh.
No, because the mill had
Really?
changed from being manufacturing cotton to, for a while, it was pressed wheel, where they manufactured chairs. So it had gone through different stages.
Well, the one I'm thinking of was still standing in the 90s, and was opposite that little park they've made in that tiny little bay house.
Yeah,
there.
that's
But that's
Fisher
still
Mill.
standing.
No, it isn't. It's
That one they took down, but they didn't take that down till much after later than 90. Then,
well, maybe the shell of it
yeah.
remained for a while,
Yeah.
and but then it's been buried. Yeah, across the street is the Mill Villages Park,
Right.
which used to be the parking lot for the mill, and that little piece of land runs between the canal, the Blackstone Canal, and the Blackstone River.
We have been talking with Helen Blazis, and she is the author of Zosia, Immigration and Industry. Will there be a copy downstairs in the local authors section?
I suppose they could be.
Okay, then you could come borrow it there. And one more time, how can they reach you if they'd like to get a copy of your book and or have you come and give a presentation?
I can also give you my telephone number. Is that all right?
It's up to you, yeah.
Yeah, 508-361-4752. But the best way to get in touch with me, as we all know, is through an email. So that's markblazissafaris@gmail.com. markblazissafaris@gmail.com.
The pictures in here, folks, are absolutely amazing. Way back in my grandparents getting married, their time brings it up to, it's like I saw one in 1950-something wedding gown. I'm seeing about the same year my parents were married in 1941.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, though. Were these handmade wedding gowns for the girls by Polish sewers?
No. These are all Americans getting married, and so the GIs just came home
Yeah.
from World War II,
Right.
and so they're, for example, in my mother's family, let's see, her 3 brothers came back from the war. They all got married in the same year, and she did as well. So all those weddings in one year, and this was true with all of the GIs coming home. They all had their sweethearts. So when they came home, they looked around, and of course they were able to find wedding dresses. You could go to Boston, you could go to Providence if you didn't find something in Worcester. But not so, interesting fact, in Europe, those GIs, the French, the Italians, they were all going home to their sweethearts. But due to the bombing by the German Nazis, factories had been destroyed. There was little to no textiles to either buy a gown or to make a wedding gown.
Yeah.
So, this is what happened. There was a mill that my grandparents worked in, Fisher Mill. During the war, they switched from making cotton to making nylons.
Uh-huh.
And this was used for parachutes
Yeah.
for our GIs. Now, when our GIs would fly over, let's say, France, they would parachute out, come to the ground, and the first thing they do is they take off their parachute and hide it.
Yeah.
And they would be continuing the war effort. Well, after the war, those parachutes were found, and the girls made them into wedding gowns.
But they were made of nylon.
Yes.
Right? But none of these gowns look like they were nylon.
Because those are American gowns that
Those
you're
are all-
looking at.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm talking about European gowns. Right.
That is amazing. How long did it take you to write the book, Helen?
Well, my mother probably worked on it about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I wrote it in the rest of it. I finished it up in 5 years.
How does your family feel? I would think they would be so proud and love it.
They do love it. And also what's included in the back is
Oh, yeah.
the family trees.
Yes.
So I have the trees of the Linek family and the trees of the O'Bara family. So what that means is people can look at those family trees and they can say, hey, that's my aunt. I never knew she was related to you.
Yeah.
And it's really good. So the family trees go all the way back to Poland.
Yeah.
So to our great ancestors.
What's your family think of you doing such great presentations? What do they think of that?
I guess they're proud of it.
Do you have children?
Yes, I have a daughter, Jessica, who's
Yeah.
a pharmacist.
Yeah.
She's married to Stephen, and they have 2 boys.
Yeah.
And I have a son, Matthew, and he is an officer. And he's married to Angela, and they also have 2 children.
Yeah. So you became a grandma.
Yes, I'm a grandmother, and the children's ages right now are about 4, 5, 6, and 7.
That is a
So,
lot.
it's
So
delightful.
you knew your mother's mother, your grandmother. You did know her.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. How old was she when she passed?
93.
There. See, it's in that your family too. Same with mine.
Yeah.
Who was the oldest liver in your family? Oldest-
My sister Marianne is older than I.
Okay.
She's 2 years older.
Oh, well, yeah, but you're still a kid, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about, if you look at the obituaries, you see 100 now.
Mhm.
90s, 100s.
Mm-hmm.
And this is becoming more and more and more.
Well, one would hope so, except for pollutants and
yes.
diet and global warming and everything that is going to affect our longevity, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
When you were in college, where did you go to college?
My undergrad was at Anna Maria
Yeah?
and graduate at Assumption, and I did some studies at Clark and Worcester State.
Clark. Gosh, first we have Dean in common. My father went there. And then Clark, my grandfather, his father graduated in 1908.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
those were back in the days when the south part of Worcester wasn't as scary as it is
Right,
now.
right.
I mean, I would love to have seen it back then. You know the homes around
Oh,
there.
the homes are exquisite.
Picture them. They're beautiful, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Now, Dean has stayed Dean. And I bet you there's some buildings there that were there. You
Mhm.
know, I know they were there when my father was there.
Sure.
But I can't go through there now. Maybe you too, without knowing. Gee, I had a relative who went here when it was an academy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank God. So, do you have any more books coming in the horizon? Or about anything in particular?
I'll tell you, I would like to I do make videos for cable TV,
Yeah.
and so I hope to take my footage of when I visited Poland with my mother
Yeah.
and make that into a video for cable
Make it into a
TV.
video.
Yeah.
All of your travels, do you keep like a journal?
No, I don't. I take videos. So when I make a movie for cable TV,
Mhm.
that's my journal.
I'm thinking of a memoir for your family, and then putting the photos in that of your trips.
It's
You're not-
my video.
You love that video,
Uh-huh.
and you're good at it too. I'll bet.
Well, I've done over 20 shows.
That's
My
great.
last one, it was on Antarctica.
Now, was this at Grafton TV?
Yes.
I was there many years ago.
Uh-huh.
Be My Guest was there.
Uh-huh.
My boss was in Worcester and Northbridge, and then Upton. Well, it's been since 2012 here in Upton. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and
Thank
I
you.
hope don't be shy out there. If you would like her to come do a presentation, don't forget her book. I think you'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much, Jen.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.